All right, so Terence Crawford, who's supposed to be fighting Canelo Alvarez this September at 168 pounds, I believe, was recently doing an interview, and during the interview, he talked about Errol Spence Jr., and one of the interesting things he had to say was that Errol Spence is not a Hall of Famer. He said that if Errol Spence stopped fighting right now, he wouldn't be a Hall of Famer. He was weight drained. He pretty much was a weight bully. He stayed at 147 pounds and was just pretty much talking about his record. They had a mega fight 2 years ago, July 2023, in which Terence Crawford stopped Errol Spence and became the undisputed champion at 147 pounds, WBA, WBO, IBF, and WBC champion, and along with Ring Magazine. Since then, Errol Spence has not fought anybody. We don't know why. I know he did have eye surgery, but he never really came out and said why. You hear rumors that Al Heyman in the PBC is mad at him for fighting Terence Crawford. But yet Terence Crawford moved up to 154 pounds, won the WBA belt there, and now he's going to have his last payday / fight with Canelo Alvarez. I got to call cap on it, and I'm going to tell you guys why. Errol Spence, in my opinion, is definitely a Hall of Famer. Just because you stayed at 147 pounds doesn't mean nothing. Marvin Hagler stayed at 160 pounds. And everybody considers him a Hall of Famer. And just when you look at Errol Spence's resume, right? He went to England. First of all, everybody was ducking him, right? I remember when he fought Chris Algieri, Leonard Bundu. He goes to London. I believe it was London or Sheffield, and he beats Kell Brook, who was the champion, who only had a loss by moving up and fighting Triple G for whatever reason. Moved up, fought Triple G, but he still had the IBF belt at 147 pounds. He beats Kell Brook, breaks his other eye socket. Then he fights Lamont Peterson. He stops Lamont Peterson. Ocampo ended up beating Ocampo. Mikey Garcia, for whatever reason, felt like he could beat Errol Spence, so he moves up and he beats Mikey Garcia. Then he goes up against Sean Porter, who's going to be a Hall of Famer. Sean Porter fought everybody. He beat Sean Porter on a close fight, and he ended up dropping Sean Porter in the last championship rounds. Was it the 11th round? Maybe, I'm trying to remember. Danny Garcia, who has been a champion in multiple weight classes, and that was a big showdown. He beats Danny Garcia, and I believe that's when he got in that bad car accident. Then he fights Ugas. Now, Ugas, a lot of people was ducking Ugas, a Cuban fighter that everybody's always is nervous about the Cuban style. Stops Ugas, right? And everybody thought that Ugas was finna hurt him because he ended up catching him. But I think Errol Spence said he thought his teeth fell out his mouth or whatever. But he fights Ugas. Now, at that point, he has the WBC, the IBF, and the WBA belts, right? Terence Crawford's a WBO champion. Now, Errol never really was going to duck Terence Crawford. Errol said, I got to clean up my side of the street. Y'all know that Al Heyman and Sam Watson, everybody was pulling the strings. So Errol said that when I get my belts, I'm going to call you out. Now, what happened was, because Terence Crawford did call out Errol Spence when he did win the WBO belt several years before that. But that car accident, I know Errol Spence was drinking and everything, and that car accident where he flipped out and was ejected from the car, that's what really messed him up. But after he fights Ugas, he takes a year off, and then he unfortunately loses to Terence Crawford. But to sit here and say that Errol Spence is not a Hall of Famer, I got to call cap on that, because Terence, you was chasing that man for years. If Errol Spence was a Hall of Famer, why was you chasing him? Why didn't you just move up to 154 pounds? We seen you pull up at one of his fights. I believe when he was fighting Danny Garcia, you pulled up at the fight hoping that he was going to call you out. And when he finally did, and y'all went through the negotiations, he didn't duck you. And you even said this is going to be a huge fight. Two brothers, we're going to get a mega payday. And honestly, when you beat Errol Spence, that's what put you in a superstardom. You had people like me out here who came out and was rooting for you, and I already said people was ducking and dodging you, but the casual fans is the ones who put you on. Who became fans of you when you beat Errol Spence in the way you did. And then after that, you started seeing him do more interviews on Hot 97 and Breakfast Club, and now he walk down the street, most people know who he is. But I gotta call cap on that. If Errol Spence stops fighting today, he's going to be in the Hall of Fame. With having a record that you did and having 3 out of the 4 belts at 147 pounds is enough to get you in my opinion. But I just want to get my quick thoughts about it. Do y'all agree or disagree? If you telling me that Errol Spence is not Hall of Famer, please let me know in the comment section below. But yeah, let me know what y'all think.